everyone, in this month's Sexuality Spotlight we are going to be talking about the cervix. All month I've been sharing about the cervix, self-cervical screening, my self-cervical screening journey, how the cervix moves with arousal, and lots of other fun resources, free resources I've been sharing in my newsletter, as well as some great education content over on Instagram. And today we're going to be going into cervical pleasure. And to start us off, I just want to do just a little bit on anatomy, just to bring our awareness to that. I think that's really important for cervical pleasure and understanding our cervical pleasure. So here we have the cross-section view of the pelvis. We have the bladder here, the uterus here, and then the vaginal canal here. And we can see as we go all the way into the vaginal canal, up at the top shelf of the vaginal canal, the upper shelf of the vaginal canal, we can see the cervix. So the very tip of the cervix and the cervix body in general. As I mentioned in my Instagram video, when we become aroused, the uterus lifts up in the pelvic bowl, and then therefore so does the cervix, and it actually creates space. There's expansion that happens in the vaginal canal, and there's space actually behind the cervix where it becomes exposed. Yummy nerve endings become exposed up here, and that's also, I guess, a part of our pleasure, up in our deeper pleasure, somewhat associated with our cervix. But then the cervix itself, if you were to touch the cervix, it feels like the tip of your nose. So when you are going to reach for your own cervix, which is very tricky to do for lots of people, or you're going to reach for the cervix of your lover, then you're feeling for that sort of cartilage feeling. And depending on whether or not somebody's had a baby vaginally, that will also feel different as well. So it might feel a little bit more open or a little bit more closed. And yeah, if the uterus is sort of tilted to one side or the other in the pelvic bowl, the tip of the uterus will also be sort of to this either side. You might need to scooch under to be able to feel the tip of the cervix, or if it's positioned differently, so instead of leaning forward, if it's sort of leaning backwards, then you won't need to scooch under as much, and it'll be easier to feel. So there are many different things at play when looking for the cervix, obviously, as well. If we are aroused, and it's going to be further up in the pelvic bowl. My earrings just coming out. I have my cute vulva earrings. One second. There we go. So yeah, have a little play with that and explore and experiment. That it is going to be easier to reach the cervix when we aren't aroused, but obviously things feel better when we are aroused. So definitely explore with different throughout different phases of your arousal or your partner's arousal. And a finger might not reach. So that's another really tricky part of cervical pleasure, because when we use our fingers, we can be much more dexterous, we can be much more gentle, we can take it slower, we can check in. But using a toy or a penis is also a way that we can stimulate and arouse and bring pleasure to the cervix. So it's definitely worth exploring and experimenting. If you are using a finger, then you can do just sort of little circles on the, excuse my nose, little circles on the tip of the cervix. You can also tap the cervix, and what the person might feel, it might, more often than not, if they haven't already been activating this area of their body, they're not connected to this area of their body, they are going to feel likely going to feel a little bit of numbness. Some people might feel pain or discomfort. And then with further stimulation, the pain and discomfort might go, or it might just be a no-go zone for that moment, or maybe just in general. And the numbness generally shifts into some kind of sensation, and oftentimes that sensation can be pleasure. And so this is a really nice way to be able to go about de-armoring the cervix, about creating new neural pathways of pleasure and a positive association with the cervix. People with cervixes, usually the most attention that they pay to it is either if it's being like hit up against uncomfortably during penetrative sex, or during a pap smear, which is also usually uncomfortable. So there can oftentimes be like a negative association with the sensations felt in the cervix. And when we go in with this slowness, breathing deeply, intentionally, and just sitting with the body, then that can oftentimes shift and turn into pleasure. There is the possibility for pleasure to be felt here. That being said, that's not the case for everybody. Every single body is wired differently. Everybody's neural pathways are wired differently, and the way that we interpret sensation is different. So it's really important just to go in with curiosity, to know that you or your partner aren't broken, isn't broke. There's nothing wrong if there isn't pleasure. It's just like any other part of the body. It's like, do you enjoy a strong massage on your neck? Yes or no? Some people find that very pleasurable. Other people are like, ow, get away from me. Sometimes when it's associated with sexuality and what we think should be pleasurable and sexy and feel orgasmic, then we can have these like expectations and put pressure on ourselves to feel a certain way. So go really slowly with it, with yourself and with your partner. And yeah, I really recommend to start with that slow touch. If you can't reach the cervix of your lover or on yourself, if you're exploring on yourself, the easiest way is to squat, because the cervix goes down deeper into the pelvic bowl, and also to do it when you're not aroused, so it's not lifting up in the pelvic bowl. You have more chances of feeling the cervix in that position. But yeah, for some people that's not possible, it's not comfortable. So you can instead get a tool to help reach the cervix. This is one tool, but really feel into what feels good for you. Because this has a bit of a curve, you can go, let me see if I can show it. You can sort of scooch underneath if the cervix is sort of pointed down. And in this situation, it would definitely be better to be, hey, puppy. It would definitely be better to be aroused. So then all of this engorgement will feel yummy with penetration, and will feel more sort of open and soft and sensitive, and there can be that added bonus of combined pleasure. That's another thing that we can do. We can stimulate the clitoris externally while going internally and stimulating the cervix at the same time. And when we do combined pleasure like this, it can start to create new neural pathways of pleasure and associations of pleasure. Using, again, just gently tapping, just like we would with the finger on the tip of the cervix, or doing really gentle circles. And then if the cervix is lifted up in the pelvic bowl, then we can hit up against the back top shelf of the vaginal canal, where those yummy nerves are exposed when we are aroused and engorged. And also there's more space when we are aroused and engorged. If you can't reach, I would recommend to use a tool like this and to be engorged while doing so, because this will reach, doesn't matter how far up the uterus goes inside the pelvic bowl. And then if you are using a strap-on or a penis, then of course going nice and gently and slowly, finding different positions that can help, especially if you're using something that's shorter, or if the penis is shorter, then you might need to do something like laying on the back and popping your legs up, or doggy style could also help get in a little bit deeper. But then if the dildo or the penis that you have doesn't reach up into the cervix, then finding a toy that does feel good to be able to do that, which is awesome. We do have toys for that. And yeah, like with all of our new explorations of pleasure and sensations and awareness in our body of these sensations, it's really important to go in with lower expectations, or not expecting to feel the sensation that you would normally feel from pleasure, but instead being aware in each moment of the sensation that you're having and seeing how that can be pleasurable. You know, the stimulation of these nerves, this a part of the body is going to feel different than stimulating the nerves in the clitoris, because it's a different nerve and a different context and a different experience, and the body is going to pick up on the sensations in a different way. And so, yeah, sometimes what we can do is we can miss pleasure when we are looking for something else. We can miss the pleasure that's there. And yeah, going into the exploration as relaxed as possible is also a really good way to be able to get the most out of it. Feeling very soft, very open, going very slowly, taking breaths. Before even going into the cervix physically, you might want to do a little bit of a mental mind map body scan and feel into this part of your body externally. And also, if you have tight pelvic muscles, there can be pain in the upper shelf of the vaginal canal. I mean, there can be pain all throughout the vaginal canal. So doing some stretches, some releasing, some yoni massage, either with a practitioner or on your own. If you're finding you're having pain with penetration in general, definitely go and see a pelvic floor / pelvic diaphragm physiotherapist, a good one that really knows what they're doing, and get a diagnosis of what's happening in your pelvic bowl. And then go from there. You might want to do some sessions with a pelvic floor physio, and then also some work with a yoni massage practitioner if that feels right for you. I can't recommend that practice enough for shifting pelvic pain and many other disconnects and blockages with our yoni. So that is everything for today's Sexuality Spotlight. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you next month. Ciao!